Imagine it's the 89th minute of a World Cup knockout match. The score is tied. A winger breaks down the sideline, sends a cross into the box, and a striker buries it into the top corner. The stadium explodes, the bench empties. Millions of fans around the world celebrate. But before the replay can even finish, an alert appears. The goal is offside. Not because a referee saw it, not because someone drew lines on a screen, but because a system of cameras and tracking technology detected it almost instantly. That scenario isn't science fiction. It's the direction the World Cup is heading. For the 2026 tournament, FIFA has introduced a series of new rules and expanded regulations designed to change the way the game is played, officiated, and managed. Some are aimed at speeding up matches. Some are designed to stop players from wasting time. Others give technology a larger role than ever before. And while FIFA says these changes will improve the game, not everyone agrees, because every new rule changes behavior. And when behavior changes, so does soccer. Today we're counting down 7 new World Cup rules that could change everything. But to understand why these rules matter, we first need to understand the problem FIFA is trying to solve. The problem FIFA thinks soccer has. For decades, soccer has been remarkably resistant to change. Unlike American football, basketball, or baseball, many of the game's core rules have remained recognizable for generations. That's part of what makes the sport special. A fan from the 1960s could still understand most of today's game. But over the last decade, complaints have started to grow louder. Fans complain about time wasting. Managers complain about inconsistent officiating. Players complain about VAR. Broadcasters complain about delays. And casual viewers, especially in markets like the United States, often struggle to understand why simple decisions sometimes take several minutes. FIFA believes the modern game has become slower, more theatrical, and more difficult to officiate. So for 2026, they're fighting back. And the first battle is against something every fan has seen: time wasting. Rule number 7, hydration breaks are more important than they look. At first glance, hydration breaks seem harmless. Players get water, coaches get a moment to breathe, everyone moves on. But the 2026 World Cup will be played across the United States, Canada, and Mexico. That means enormous distances, different climates, and potentially brutal summer temperatures. Player safety is the obvious reason for hydration breaks. But there's another effect. Every break creates an opportunity. Imagine a match where one team is struggling tactically. Normally, the manager has to wait until halftime to make major adjustments. A hydration break changes that. Suddenly, coaches have a chance to gather players together and deliver instructions in the middle of a half. In some situations, it almost functions like a timeout. And while soccer traditionalists don't love anything that resembles American sports, these small interruptions can dramatically influence momentum. A team under pressure gets a chance to reset. A tired defense gets a chance to recover. A coach gets a chance to reorganize. It may sound minor, but World Cups are often decided by tiny margins, and tiny margins are exactly what FIFA is trying to control. Rule number 6. Injured players can't return immediately. Every soccer fan has seen it. A player goes down, the trainer runs onto the field, a minute passes, then another, and somehow the player makes a miraculous recovery the moment play resumes. Real injuries happen. Nobody questions that. But fake injuries have become one of soccer's most notorious tactics, especially when a team is protecting a lead. The solution? Players who receive treatment on the field generally have to remain off the pitch temporarily before returning. That changes the calculation completely. Before, a player could stop the game and immediately rejoin play. Now there's a cost. Your team may have to continue without you, and that creates a powerful deterrent. The interesting part is that this rule doesn't punish time wasting directly. Instead, it changes incentives. The player now has to decide whether slowing the game down is worth leaving teammates shorthanded. It's a subtle change. But subtle changes often have the biggest impact because they alter behavior without constantly requiring referees to intervene. And FIFA's campaign against delays doesn't stop there. In fact, the next rule targets one of the oldest tricks in the sport. Rule number 5, the end of the slow walk. Picture this. Your team leads 1-0 in the 88th minute. The coach signals for a substitution. The player leaves the field, slowly, very slowly. Maybe he applauds the crowd. Maybe he shakes hands with everyone on the bench. Fans hate it, opponents hate it, referees hate it. But for years, it has remained part of the game. Now, FIFA wants substitutions completed much faster. The goal is simple. Keep the ball in play, reduce unnecessary delays, increase actual game action. That sounds great in theory, but it creates new pressure. Imagine a nervous young player being substituted in a World Cup quarterfinal. The clock is ticking. Officials are watching. The crowd is roaring. every second suddenly matters. What used to be a routine moment becomes another source of tension. And if FIFA succeeds, the final minutes of matches could feel very different, faster, more chaotic, and much less comfortable for teams trying to protect a lead, which leads directly into another anti-time wasting measure, one that could produce some of the strangest moments of the tournament. Rule number 4. Countdowns for delays. Soccer has never really had countdown clocks. Basketball does, American football does, but soccer traditionally relies on the referee's judgment. That's beginning to change. Officials are being encouraged to crack down harder on delays involving restarts, goal kicks, throw-ins, set pieces. The idea is simple. Players shouldn't be able to endlessly drain seconds from the clock. And while the exact enforcement may vary, FIFA's broader message is unmistakable. Play the game. Stop delaying it. What's fascinating is how much this reflects modern sports culture. Today's audiences expect action, constant action. Long pauses frustrate viewers, especially television audiences, so when FIFA introduces measures like countdown enforcement, they're not just changing rules, they're changing the viewing experience. They're trying to make soccer feel faster, and whether that's a good thing depends entirely on who you ask. Traditionalists argue that game management is part of soccer. Others argue that deliberate delays damage the sport. Either way, FIFA has made its position clear. The era of endless time wasting is under attack. But now we move into a much more controversial area: technology. Rule number 3. VAR is getting even bigger. No innovation has divided soccer fans quite like VAR. Video Assistant Referee was introduced to eliminate obvious mistakes. Instead, it sparked endless debate. Some fans love the accuracy. Others miss the spontaneity. A goal goes in. Everyone celebrates. Then comes the wait. Was someone offside? The celebration becomes a suspense sequence. Now FIFA is expanding how technology can assist officials. The goal is consistency. The goal is accuracy. The goal is fewer game-changing mistakes. But every expansion raises the same question: how much technology is too much? Because soccer's appeal has always been its simplicity. 22 players, one ball, one referee. The more technology enters the equation, the further the sport moves away from that identity. Supporters say that's necessary, critics say it's dangerous. And the debate becomes even more intense when we reach the next rule, because this one could affect goals within seconds. Rule number 2. The new offside revolution. There may be no rule in soccer more misunderstood than offside. For casual fans, it often feels random. For experienced fans, it can feel infuriating, especially when goals are disallowed because of incredibly small margins. FIFA believes technology can solve that. The semi-automated offside system uses advanced tracking technology and multiple camera angles to identify player positions much faster than traditional methods. The objective isn't necessarily to change the offside rule itself, it's to deliver decisions more quickly and more consistently. Imagine a striker making a run behind the defense. Pass arrives. The ball hits the net. Within moments, officials receive information indicating whether the player was onside. No lengthy line drawing, no prolonged delays, no guessing. At least that's the theory. Because while faster decisions sound great, they also raise uncomfortable questions. How precise should soccer become? If technology can detect an offside by a fraction of an inch, should that really decide a World Cup match? Fans have argued about this for years, and the debate isn't going away. Because technology is increasingly determining outcomes once decided by human judgment. And that brings us to the most controversial rule of all, one that has very little to do with technology and everything to do with behavior. Rule number 1. FIFA wants more control over player conduct. The modern World Cup is more than a sporting event. It's one of the most watched events on Earth. Every gesture is captured. Every argument is recorded. Every confrontation becomes a headline. That's why FIFA has introduced stricter standards surrounding player conduct and interactions with officials. The governing body wants greater transparency, greater accountability, and fewer situations where communication or behavior creates controversy. Supporters argue this protects referees. Critics argue it gives officials too much power. And that's what makes this rule so fascinating. Unlike offside technology or hydration breaks, this isn't about mechanics. It's about culture. It's about how players behave, how they communicate, how much emotion is acceptable, and where the line should be drawn. Because soccer has always been emotional. World Cups create pressure unlike anything else in sports. Players cry, celebrate, argue, lose control. That's part of what makes the tournament unforgettable. So when FIFA changes standards around player behavior, they're influencing something much deeper than tactics. They're influencing the personality of the game itself. And that's why this rule may generate more headlines than any other. Whether you love these changes or hate them, one thing is undeniable. The 2026 World Cup will not be exactly like the tournaments that came before it. FIFA is trying to make soccer faster, cleaner, more efficient, and more technologically precise. The question is whether those goals come at a cost, because every rule solves one problem while creating another. Faster decisions may reduce mistakes, but they can also remove human judgment. Stricter enforcement may discourage gamesmanship, but it can also change how players express themselves. For better or worse, the world's biggest sporting event is entering a new era. And when the first whistle blows at the 2026 World Cup, we'll find out whether these changes improve the game or change it forever. And now we want to hear from you. Which of these 7 rules do you think will have the biggest impact on the World Cup? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe to Offside Archive for more stories behind the world's biggest game.